Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with a whole new diving into a new year. Year 2, Space 1999, and its first episode with a bit of an intro. Into that, the first episode, technically episode 25, is known as the Metamorph, directed by Charles Crichton, written by Johnny Byrne, which is probably a really good thing since these were veteran writers and a director, of course, of many episodes in the first season. Guest star Brian Blessed, we know him. He plays his character as mentor. You know him as Prince Voltan on Flash Gordon. Plus, he guest starred as on Death's Other Dominion. Dr. Cabot Rowland plays a mad scientist in both. Go figure. And these were really wise decisions to at least get the year started off well in light of all the many changes. Two quick reminders. John Kenneth Muir's book, Exploring Space 1999, is an absolutely fabulous reference guide to have in your collection, especially if you want just a lot of commentary on just an overview of the show. It's absolutely fantastic. This unfortunately is out of print now. Just looked it up this morning, and there are sellers on there, but it's basically out of print. So it ranges from like $88 to $120 some now. So anyways, but it is an absolutely beautiful set. So let's start with just going down a quick hit list of all the changes, and then we'll try to step back and cover our tracks a little bit. Well, right off the bat, no Victor Bergman, no Paul Morrell, no Kano, no Tanya. And that is unfortunate, but we do welcome Catherine Schell as a permanent guest. Her name is Maya, and we get a huge introduction to her in this first episode. And Tony Anholt, who plays Tony in the show, and he's sort of your Paul replacement. Victor Bergman really doesn't have a replacement, although one would say maybe Maya is sort of the step in. But she really is a unique character that we'll see developed over this year. She also guested on year 1 as well. The philosophy is dramatically changed, and I'll say why in a minute here. You go from a crew that is absolutely, for good reasons, frightened and desperate to get themselves off this piece of rock, and recognizing along the way of year 1 that perhaps, or maybe not perhaps, there was a divine sort of providential hand that was guiding them through their adventures, keeping them safe, taking them directly to certain points for certain reasons, perhaps. But that philosophy has much changed now into year 2. That is pretty much abandoned. The rock becomes home. It becomes a much more intimate set piece, a permanent set piece, that is. And, they go from being extremely, as John Kenneth Muir states in his book, frightened and desperate, which I agree with, to one of, it's okay, we got everything in our control now. No unseen force guiding us. And that, to me, that is a really unfortunate change, because that is one aspect of year 1 I really enjoyed. And this all complements mostly of 2 major things. Fred Freiberger, who is asked to come in and revamp the series so that there is a year 2. And of course, Gary Anderson and Sylvia will divorce, leaving Gary in charge as executive producer, which really he won't really have. He's sort of he's there. And really it's, Freiberger he was executive producer or producer on Star Trek his 3rd season, and he was known for going in there at the tail end and just keeping seasons going as long as they could go. The $6 Million Man is another one, but he has some very strong philosophical points that he wanted to flush out, bring in, and in a real revamp, and you can actually tell with the music right now. Number 3, no longer, I mentioned this, no longer leaving Moonbase Alpha, and their command center is now underground, and that's been a huge upgrade too, in terms of its modeling. It's much more smaller, made to be much more intimate. I would imagine a uniform upgrade. It's no longer unisex, but more tailored to the male and females on the moon. The musical score, Barry Gray is out, and Derek Wadsworth is in, which you can tell, huge difference. And unfortunately, as the year goes in, a lot of it probably because of a choice to go from a 15-month shoot to almost simultaneously shooting 2 episodes at once. That had a really negative impact on the show in terms of guest stars, in terms of the regulars maybe not appearing in one or vaguely appearing in one, and that is just because of the shooting schedule. So, in the end, it really does feel different, and it really did feel different to me. Brian Johnson, though, and his crew are back with the special effects, which is fabulous. And so, I'll be honest, after reading John Kenneth Muir's overviews and stuff, I was not excited, man. I loved Victor Bergman's character, and knowing he wasn't going to come back. And unfortunately, they were not able to retain Barry Morse for varied reasons, and it's just unfortunate, even though the cast really wanted him in there. So, I'll be honest, the first time I put in the Metamorph, I was really disappointed, man. I was really disappointed. Right from the font, the intro, the music, just aesthetically, I was just like, how am I going to do 24 episodes of this? This is not year one. Let me just say something. This morning, I watched it, I think, for the 3rd or 4th time. I think I found a groove with this. I think it's going to be okay. I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to have fun with this. Yeah, there are changes, but you know what? If it's not for all these changes, and I do believe John Kenneth Muir pointed this out at some point in his book, that we might not have had a year 2. We might have only had year 1, which is, fine. But to see this pushed for another 24 episodes, and there's going to be some wonderful highlighted moments along the way, some great character moments, some great stories, and not so great stories. It is what it is, but it got another full 24 episodes. And I'll say this too, it goes from really a British show to British expectations to really more in line with American expectations. So even though it's still a British produced show, it really is Americanized, and I think that in of itself, I don't know, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Anyhow, the Metamorph, real quick, man. So right off the bat, man, one of the differences with going from year 2 to year 1 is we find out that they have not, in fact, been out for 877 days since breaking out of Earth's orbit, but it's only been 342, according to Helena, who gives us the early narration as she is logging things into her log, whatever. And so, some major changes. They were just, the moon has just come out of a sort of like they hit a warp where the moon was just kind of catapulted quite some distance out, but with no casualties, which is a good thing. Their life support system took a big hit, and so they needed to find a source of titanium, which brings them to the nearest planet, which they sent out a scout ship, and they find there's plenty there. So great, looks like a dead world, doesn't look like anyone's living there, but of course there is one Brian Blessed, who plays, of course, Mentor and his daughter Maya, and they are the last remnants of the civilization on this planet, Psychon. And he is desperately trying to renew this planet, recreate it, really. And he develops this computer, this biological computer, that will help him in this effort, known as Psyche. But the problem and the catch is, part of the mad scientist deal is and he's wonderful in this, man. He is absolutely so much fun to watch. He needs human intelligence, human minds, to basically become the battery juice to operate this biological computer of sorts. And so, they'll catch, ships, wayward ships along the way. They'll catch them, and basically there's a graveyard of ships, which is a collection of a lot of ships that we've saw from year 1, which is really kind of neat, man. And so they sort of like a spider web effect, like Dragon's Domain. They just catch things, and they take the people, and they basically take all their mind juice out, and then they become slaves to mine minerals for him. And so it's kind of a weird sort of setup. And so when the scout ship is trying to get out, this glowing ball of force, whatever, from the planet comes up, grabs onto it, forces it back down, and that will lead to the first interaction between Koenig and Mentor, in which they agree to have a meeting out in space to try to sort things out. Unfortunately, Koenig doesn't understand the full scope of this, and in going out to meet under false pretenses, whatever, he and Helena and Alan and a few others will get captured, and it doesn't take long before Koenig starts to understand the full scope of what's going on here, and that leads to, I will say this, man, as a veteran of year one now, one of the great moments in Space 1999. It sort of calls to mind one of the greatest moments in Star Trek cinema history when Kirk turns the tables on early on holy crap, Khan. How did that boom? When he turns the tables and Khan thinks he's getting the Genesis project, and instead he lowers his shields from Kirk's own ship. He lowers his own shield so he can fire on. It's one of the great moments in Star Trek history. So this sort of rings the bell. So Koenig and Helena and Alan, they come to really figure out everything I've already laid out to you, and they're being held sort of in prison, right, against their will. Mentor's idea is to take all of Moonbase off as occupants and basically use them for battery juice for his biological computer that he's constructed. So Koenig does the only thing he can do. He makes Mentor think that he is agreeable to this in order to save a few lives. And instead, he gives a coded message, Directive 4, which tells Tony, who is our Paul replacement, who is in charge up there, tells him basically, rain hell down upon us, destroy this planet. There's nothing we can do. In so doing, he sort of pushes off Helena and Alan, who think he's sold out, which he hasn't, because they don't know Directive 4, apparently Directive 4. And so there is a really tense amount of time where you see, he is sort of isolated off from the others because they think he has just gone off the deep end and sold him out. And he hasn't. He has basically called, a rain of hell down upon them. And unfortunately, Mentor will see his way through this. Along the way, Maya, who never in a million years would ever think that her father would do any of this, and I don't know how you live in isolation on a planet and never pick up on any of this, and she also, too, I should say, Maya plays a sort of a shapeshifter. You think of Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, there you go, man. Just like that. But eventually, her eyes will be opened to the horrors of what her father has done. Mentor will see through Koenig's plot. He'll destroy the ship, the Eagle one that's packed with explosive that is on its way like a torpedo. And then he will begin to destroy Moonbase Alpha in exchange for what Koenig attempts to do. But Koenig is able to reach Maya in a way that causes her to go down into the caves, the labyrinth down below, and she will discover for herself what her father's been up to, and she will then quickly side with Koenig and the others and help bring the show to a resolution and sort of a great climax, which is our great segue to Catherine Schell becoming a permanent member on Space 1999, So my thoughts on this, once I got out of that second viewing, I don't know, I'm falling into a good groove. I think I'm really going to enjoy this year. I'm still going to miss Victor. I'm going to miss him. Sorry, I'm going to miss him. It's just really, I hate it that they just couldn't figure that mess out. And Paul too, right? And Kano. I remember Tanya doesn't. It's not the forefront of my mind for some reason, but so as I said early on, aesthetically, tonally, philosophically, maybe even theologically, we are on a different pathway of sorts, and without much regard to the year that had come past. And I got to say this too. One of the more disappointing things, which Kenneth Mert brings up, and I agree, is no explanation to why. I can almost see why Paul's not explained, or Kana, or Tanya for sure, but not to explain Victor's absence. Now, the rumor is, the thought, the idea is that there was a scene filmed that talked about apparently he died as a result of a faulty spacesuit, and I think the scene might have been shot, but was deleted from the final product. And who knows, maybe they just felt it just didn't work well enough, and just felt like, you know what, Paul Freiberger, or Fred Freiberger probably thought it was best just to do a complete move on, and figured give three or four episodes and people will not forget, but sort of come to terms with it in a good way. Unfortunately, this it will only run 2 seasons, and so we're going to explore this. I'm going to just go ahead and wrap it up. I think that's probably enough. Probably said enough, and so I think I'm good. I think I'm ready for another 23 episodes, and now that we've got this intro first episode out of the way, and start really diving in deep and treating it the way that it probably ought to be treated. It's a good thing I didn't do this review after only one viewing. It probably would have not been good. But I've had some time to think about it and come to terms with some aspects of it. And I am definitely in the end more thankful we got a year 2 than not having year 2, I think. I think that's how I feel when this is all over. So here we go, episode 25, the Metamorph. We'll see how it goes. Merry Christmas. It's coming up pretty quick. Just got a few days left, man. Get your act straight, man. If you're not there, get there. And a happy new year. And hopefully my dogs will capture another championship. And hopefully maybe my Bills will get a Super Bowl. We'll see. We'll see, right? Excuse me. So, as always, we end these things off with Go Bills.